and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. It's everything you need to make freelancing easier. Find out more at rounded.com.au.
Also, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, Rounded is giving you 20% off an annual subscription plan. Upgrade to gold membership for all the details.
Hi, Rach. How are you? What are you working on at the moment?
I'm good, actually. I've just actually put the finishing touches onto a new landing page for the wrapper, which is my Friday night newsletter. Some of you might have got that in your inboxes. It's on content, writing, freelancing, that kind of thing. And it has lots of what the big kids call social proof. And I mention that because today's podcast episode is all about social proof and why you need it as part of your marketing efforts, and also why it's so powerful.
That's right. And our guest this week is the perfect one to talk about this, because we're chatting to Kirsty Fanton, who is a bit of a social proof expert, isn't she?
She is. And we're going to let her talk us through the nitty-gritty about social proof. But first, I'll read a quick and hilarious bio for her. Kirsty Fanton is a launch copywriter and ex-psychotherapist who's very bad at naming things. Take Brain Camp, her course on the psychology behind high-performing copy. The Mirror Journal, her reflective practice tool for business owning humans. Or Goldie, her first goldfish, who met an untimely end at the hands of Slowpoke, the not-so-friendly sea snail.
Oh, that's quite
Welcome,
cute.
Kirsty.
Thanks, Rach, and thanks, Lynne. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a while since I wrote that intro. It's actually really good.
That's a good bio.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
How about we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, Kirsty, and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I am a copywriter by trade. I'm a launch copywriter and strategist. I have an 18-month-old, so I am still in the process of sort of shifting my business model a little bit to support life with a small human. But basically, yeah, I'm serving clients at the moment through group programs and digital products that help them really optimize their copy so that it connects and converts really well and helps them hit their bigger business goals.
Amazing. We have actually talked to a few people lately who've been singing your praises. Wasn't it Melissa Payne we had on last week?
Yeah, it was Melissa.
She's the email quizzes extraordinaire, and she did Brain Camp, I think. So
she did, yes. Oh, she's such a lovely human, Melissa. Yes, I feel so chuffed that she that she mentioned me.
Yeah, I mean, look, quite a few of our guests have mentioned Brain Camp. It comes up again and again how amazing your training is for bringing the human behavior and psych side of things into copy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's your background, isn't it? So it's so good that you've brought those two things together, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's really just been a happy coincidence, I think. It took me a while to realize that not everyone had the same kind of insights into how we work as humans and how we form relationships and how we make decisions, and of course how that's all very helpful in the world of marketing and business. But once I did realize that, yeah, Brain Camp came about pretty naturally, and it's something I really love delivering, and it's such a good way for me to meet just like a bunch of amazing humans every year, and then yeah, just so cool to see what they go and do with that knowledge. And you know, for many of them, I think Brain Camp is just a way of giving words and science to what they already kind of instinctually know, which I think is also really cool. Like, just to get that backing for what you're already doing can be such a big confidence boost that you know your stuff and that you're already doing amazing work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really fun way for me to spend my time as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Does your psych background help when it comes to social proof and gathering it, and even like knowing how to ask the right questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, in not so much in undergrad, but in postgrad, once you sort of narrow down what it is you want to do, and obviously mine was in psychotherapy, you know, you spend whole subjects on things like questions and how to ask questions that facilitate conversation and open up conversation and help people feel safe to explain and explore. So I think that piece in particular is really helpful when it comes to creating surveys that are really likely to get not only, first of all, responses, because we all know, I'm sure, the pain of sending out a survey and you get, 2 responses back and that's it, but also responses that are actually going to be really insightful for you in understanding the value and the possible tweaks you could make to your offers, as well as really insightful responses and really valuable responses in terms of giving you proof and snippets that will really help you sell more of those offers more easily. So yeah, my background absolutely helps with all of that stuff, and I'm so grateful for it. I think that the longer I'm in business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's back up a bit and talk about what social proof actually is for people who might be scratching their heads right now and thinking, what is it? Is it testimonials? Is it, huh?
Yeah, great question. Because I think a lot of people assume that social proof is just testimonials and that's the start and the end of it. So testimonials are a form of social proof. So in a nutshell, social proof is basically any evidence provided by real live humans that supports the value, function, or fit of the thing that you're selling. So of course, that's testimonials. You can also use screenshots of, comments or feedback that's come to you by email, Instagram DMs, whatever sort of platforms you operate in, maybe in your private group spaces if you run group programs. There's a whole other realm of social proof, even things like the fact that people are actually buying your offer. That's really valuable social proof in the right context, because people are readily influenced by that kind of information when it's presented in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So how can it help you do what you do, and why is it so powerful?
It's really powerful because we are fundamentally social creatures. So, we are designed to be part of social groups. We are readily influenced by those around us, and particularly by those who we see as being similar to us, and by those who we aspire to be or be like. So in the context of marketing and of selling, products and services more easily, if you are really selective about who you feature in that sales funnel or that sales process, if you're picking people who really represent your ideal prospect, both in terms of where your ideal prospect might be now before they have whatever change or shift or transformation your product offers, and also in terms of what that change or shift or transformation looks like, if that's relatable and desirable, that's a really powerful piece of the puzzle, because being able to provide proof is the difference between basically asking your prospect to just trust that you're telling the truth and being able to show them really clearly that it does what you say. So it's the difference between asking them for trust and proving a point in a way that is quite undeniable.
I think it's really interesting. Do you think that Australians particularly, maybe even British, are a bit self-deprecating? So it sounds wrong to me, and probably even to my audience, to say I'm a fabulous writer or a fabulous content. But if Rachel says I am, everyone goes, oh, wow. And so there's that sort of third-party endorsement.
It's basically cleverly asking other people to
to praise you,
to put you out there. Yeah,
yeah. Because if you said, otherwise that big noting yourself is very un-Australian. But I think it does make people feel uncomfortable, even if it's true.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. When I was doing the voice of customer research process for my own social proof product, one of the things that kept coming through from people was that they felt so awkward about the idea of tooting their own horn. And it is an awkward part. I think a lot of us who are in creative careers are in the careers we're in because we love the core skill, whether that's writing or design or something else. But then if we go into a space where we make a business out of that skill, you still need to sell that skill. And it's hard if you feel really uncomfortable being able to just, own the benefits of that. And I think, I still feel really uncomfortable being able to do that, but I have so much social proof that it's fine. I can let other people do the, uncomfortable, awkward parts of selling for me. So absolutely.
Yeah, you are very good at getting social proof, I have to say. And what you just mentioned before, you said sometimes you get it off an email. You've come back to me sometimes saying, hey, that's awesome. Can I use that in my, as social proof? And just the way you do it is very natural and organic. But you also mentioned sometimes social proof, great opportunities for social proof can come up in group programs, or I imagine in groups that you might run on Slack or on Facebook or somewhere else. How do you navigate that if it's a private group, but the social proof is like off the wall epic?
I love that, which is what often happens, right? Because I think there is so much value in the proof that comes organically. So, testimonials are great, but I think that there is a bit of a like polish to them that isn't there for that really organic interaction, which if you can get permission, which you always must do. I just think if you want to be an ethical human, I think that's more powerful simply because there's no filter or there's been no prodding to actually have that interaction happen or those comments come through. But I always think the best way to go about that is if you see an interaction, whether it's in your Facebook group or in your Slack group or, Telegram, whatever you might be using these days, and you can see straight away, oh my God, like this is going to be really powerful proof, either because it really proves like the value of what people get out of this group space, or because it might speak really clearly to an objection that's really common. So if you know that, a big challenge for people who are considering joining your group is something like, the cost per month. If you have a thread that spontaneously starts where people are like, oh my God, I've only been here a month. I know I was nervous about spending $149 per month, but I've just landed a project that's 10K. And then if other people chime in, but like, oh my God, I had this similar thing happen. Like that's amazing proof, because that will really help you tackle an objection for your prospects when you are looking to invite more people into that space. So when you see something like that, I always think the best way to go about it is to privately, I would say, get in touch with the people in that thread and just make the ask. So, hey, Rach, thank you so much for sharing that amazing win in the group. I am so happy for you and I'm popping the champagne for you here. I was just wondering, and there's absolutely no expectation that comes with this ask, how would you feel about me screenshotting your comment with or without your name and photo visible and using it to help me market this group in future? So something really as simple as that, and that puts the permission with them. And some people will say, oh my God, yes, go ahead. Others might not feel comfortable, totally fine. And others will feel comfortable, but only if they're de-identified or if their name's redacted. So I always think it's, important to only ask permission once people know what they're actually giving permission for, in terms of what they've shared will actually appear in the public domain.
Mm-hmm. And when you do that kind of thing, how much do people say yes? Do you find that they say yes a lot of the time, or is it a bit 50-50?
So I'd say almost always.
Yeah.
I think in terms of when people say no, it is almost always because they may have mentioned a client or something that was sort of in a DNA type situation, or NDA. I was like,
NDA.
NDA.
Sorry, NDA. Or perhaps, if they had referenced a client, if they hadn't named them, but maybe they'd said, oh, that guy who was a pain in the ass to work with. Well, guess what just happened? And of course, I completely understand why you wouldn't want that out on the internet with your name attached. So yeah, overwhelmingly, I would say like 9.5 times out of 10, people give me permission to use those things in my marketing. And I think, I'm the same. If people ask me if I've had a really great experience as, being part of a group program, of course, I'm so happy to help the people behind it, promote it in a way that will help them attract more people who can then hopefully have similarly great experiences. So I think sometimes too, it helps to put yourself on the other end of that exchange, because that can, I think, sometimes make you more likely just to make the ask, because I know that one of the other really common struggles with social proof is that people feel awkward asking for it and asking to use proof that already exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
So tell me, what are the biggest mistakes you see businesses and freelancers make when it comes to social proof?
So definitely not asking for it in the first place.
Yeah.
Or if they do ask for it, not making it easy for people to respond in a way that's actually helpful. So I think that could be that perhaps they just send an email that's something like, hey, our project's wrapped up. I had such a great time working with you. Would you mind providing me a testimonial? And thinking that covers the ask.
Yeah.
And I think two things happen there. That puts a lot of onus on the person to be like, oh shit, what do I write in a testimonial? and also that means that you're likely to get a testimonial that really smells like a testimonial. Like, I would tell all of my friends to exactly, yes, rather than being natural, honest insights, which always resonate a lot better with your prospects. So, the ways around those key mistakes, I think, are to set up surveys, because if people have, somewhere, 6 to 10 questions that really prompt them to put their thoughts down on paper in a way that's easy, it not only takes the onus off them a little bit to have to think about what they should actually include or talk about, but it also means that the responses will just be insights plucked from their head rather than something that they've shaped into what they think would make a nice testimonial for your website.
So yeah, is there any other mistakes that we make, like apart from ignoring the need for social proof at all?
I think that's a pretty big one. I think as well, like often people will only provide proof that speaks to the results or the transformation or the shift or the outcome. And what that can do is run the risk of alienating the person who is looking for those outcomes but hasn't yet experienced them, because they might be like, oh, like I want that, but I'm so far from that, this might not be for me. Whereas if you can capture through those surveys, I guess, the before and the after, or even the before, the during, and the after, you have a way to make that proof really relatable to the prospects that you're trying to attract. So in a way, that kind of proof helps people see and understand and know that, okay, this is for me. Like, even though these outcomes are amazing and like things I dream about, like this person was pretty much where I am like 6 months ago. So I think, you know, getting a whole picture and making people really real and round and relatable, keeping in mind what I said at the start or towards the start of this episode, that proof is most powerful when it comes from people just like us. So trying to work out how can you make this person relatable and real and identifiable to your prospect on the other side of the screen.
Amazing. Well, as a longtime follower of yours, massive fan of yours, and we've worked together on a masterclass and I've done some of your webinars, I know your sort of email style very well and the way that you use social proof, whether it's a screenshot of, you know, a little conversation that people have had in a group, or it might be an email or a bit of a testimonial that you've gotten. So you use it really well. So just talk us through some of the ways you can use social proof, you know, in your marketing or on your website, or how do we use it?
Yeah, sure. So I think, as with everything in business, context is really key. So thinking through what's important for your offer. And I think the most important thing there is really knowing your ideal prospect, so that you can do things like have an understanding about what kind of outcomes they're looking for, what kind of objections or hesitations they have, so that you can pick proof that really speaks to these things and proves those points for you, rather than, you know, if there's an objection about, oh, you know, I've got so much on my plate, like will I actually have time for this? Rather than you replying with like, yes, you know, you can get through it in 2 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. Being like, oh, actually, so this is a question I ask in my feedback form and I've got permission to share, you know, responses from these feedback forms. Here are 3. The first one is from, you know, Susan, who also has, you know, 3 young kids and a side hustle. Here's another one from, you know, someone else. And again, picking people who are related to that person, so that you can not only use the proof in the more public and public facing aspects of your selling, but also in your one-to-one sales conversations too. So even in things like proposals. So back when I was doing big one-to-one launch projects, I would get very selective about which social proof I was pulling into each proposal. And, you know, for example, if someone had got in touch with me wanting to work together because they'd been referred by someone else, then it was really cool to be able to pull social proof in from that person. Or if they had heard about me on someone's podcast and I had worked with that podcast host on a launch, being able to pull their testimonial in, because again, social proof most powerful when it comes from people just like you, or from people that you aspire to be or be like. So yeah, thinking it through, I think, really strategically. And I hope, if nothing else, that's coming across through this conversation, that it's not as simple as just getting 3 testimonials and calling it a day. It's about how can you actually leverage this amazing tool that we have so that it actually really does the selling pretty much for you in terms of ticking all those key tasks off the list.
That's so interesting, the strategy behind it, which I think is something that we just don't think about. Yeah. And also I like what you said. I think social proof is so closely tied to people's pain points, isn't it? If you use it in the right way.
Yes.
I wonder, like with, so I guess my testimonials, I find I've had a lot more success with the ones I've had on Google, on the Google My Business, compared to the ones on the website. And I wonder if that's because people view the ones on the website with suspicion because they know that I've chosen them, whereas Google could be anyone. And so they're more positive. Is that a good way to look at it, or a good way to good place to put testimonials?
Yeah, again, so I think context is really key. I think what you've said is correct, that, you have far less, if any, ability to actually filter or choose the ones that come through Google reviews.
Yeah.
So, they're all honest and, they're not orchestrated, I guess, even though obviously you're hopefully requesting some of those.
Yeah.
But I also think the context of your business is important in terms of how are people finding you, because if they're finding you via Google, if they're searching, like, for example, for me, like Australian launch copywriter, I don't even know if I would track for that on SEO, but if I did, and that was the main way in, then I think those Google reviews would be more powerful or a better selling tool for me than those on my website. But if you're someone who mainly gets business through word of mouth, it may be that people are coming more directly to your website and bypassing any Google reviews. So also just understanding the ecosystem of the business and how things work. But you've absolutely hit a nail on the head there in terms of, people being far less suspicious of certain forms of social proof than they are of others.
And what have been some of the most powerful pieces of social proof that you've used? Are they mainly the screenshots of things like conversations, or?
Yeah. And I think something that also worked really well for me, and I always use it. And actually, I don't know if anyone else was doing this earlier. I mean, I'm sure they were. I just hadn't come across it before. It's one of those things that probably felt like my own idea, but almost certainly wasn't. Was actually during my launches for Brain Camp, sharing full, complete feedback forms from start to finish. Everything visible, even answers to the question of what, if anything, could be improved or done differently, and not editing anything, so that people could see the full nuts and bolts of things. And for me, I think particularly for Brain Camp, which, as you mentioned earlier, is a copywriting program, because it's such a crowded market, right? There are hundreds of different copywriting courses, thousands out there, really active comparisons. And of course, if those comparisons are favorable, or even if they're favorable and or just really help distinguish your offer from others out there, so that you could perhaps attract the right people for your specific offer, I think that's also really powerful too. So actively seeking those comparisons if you do have an offer that sits in a crowded market, so that people can quite clearly see how your offer is different and better for them. Yeah, that has always proved so powerful in my own business and also for my clients' businesses as well.
Amazing.
Rach tells me that the social proof webinar she watched, that you did talk a lot about organizing your social proof. And that's interesting, because how do you do it yourself? Do you have an elaborate filing system? Do you use Trello? Are you a post-it note person? What do you do? How do you organize?
And you must have to attach dates to everything as well.
So not really. My filing system is so basic. So I have in my inbox, I have a separate folder for all of my offers. And, obviously for some of them, digital products, there's just one social proof folder for each of those. For offers like Brain Camp that are run annually, I have, like a 2022 social proof folder, a 2021. So it's really nothing fancy. I don't use Trello. I also have on my phone a big album that is broken into separate albums of different screenshots for different offers. So because the social platform that I'm on for my business is Instagram, I use that on my phone and never on my laptop. So if I do get permission to use, a DM from someone, for example, then I'm taking a screenshot of that. I used to also find it sometimes easier just to take screenshots of Slack conversations on my phone as well. So it's nothing high tech. I just think the things I would really advocate for, and this will look different too. Like, I don't have a team. So if you have a team, I imagine you may need something that is more readily accessible by multiple people. Whereas for me, like, my phone is fine. But I would just really encourage anyone listening that when you do get permission to use a piece of proof that comes from an email or from, a social media interaction or from a group interaction, to screenshot or take a photo of it then and there and put it in the relevant place for you to find later, because I guarantee that when it comes time for you to find it and you think about it, it's going to take you hours to place it. You haven't done that like 1 minute of admin like at that point in time.
So you're sort of screenshotting the email with the date on it as well, that sort of thing?
So with the emails, they just go into the folders in my inbox.
Oh, right. Yep.
And then that
Okay.
way, I can see the date there when I go in. Yeah, if the iPhone dates all the screenshots that you take anyway. So for things like Instagram, DMs and stuff, the date's there on the photo, which makes it nice and easy.
Yeah.
I love how you always want the nitty gritty, don't you, Rach?
I know. I like I like to nerd out on all the detail. I mean, you use all your social proof really well in your emails, like in all your email marketing. Are you also repurposing that on your socials? You are. So you're repurposing everything all the time.
All the time. And that goes for all content, I think, not just social proof. So for example, if you're listening and if you head over to my Instagram, which is kirsty.fanton, my saved stories, I've got one for Brain Camp, one for the Mirror Journal, one for Social Proof Sidekick. And if you have a look through those, you'll see heaps of examples of social proof in those, from testimonials to screenshots to whatever. So that could just give you an idea of sort of what stuff I do share on there and what that looks like too. But also really helpful for me to have a place where I can just send people if they want to have a look at, like, what people were saying about this last time or what people have said about this over the years.
Yeah.
And maybe people might actually say they were thinking of doing Brain Camp. Before they approach you, they're probably going to go there and do a little bit of surreptitious stalking first, aren't they?
Quite possibly, yes. And I would encourage that.
Yeah. You know what? It makes me think I actually have used some social proof on my freelancer CV, now that I think about it. I use little snippets that clients have said about me down the side.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was doing that.
See, you're so good.
I know.
I was thinking, I should do more of it. But anyway.
Well, you will after this.
After this, I'll be going through all my emails.
Yeah. The only trouble is, like, you probably have an awesome piece of social proof that is 3 years old. And then it's like a bit too, is that too late to go back to someone and go, you told me that I was awesome, like in 2019.
Can I assume I'm still awesome and it's okay to use it?
I find my biggest challenge is that most of my clients are large corporates and they have lots of protocols before they can say anything nice about me. So
yes,
in public, in any sort of public forum. So they might say, I love this work, it's really good, but they have to go through a whole hierarchy to get anything approved. So that's my biggest challenge. Is there a way to get around that?
That's a great question. So none of my clients are big corporates. So I haven't had that experience. But I suspect that there would be. And I wonder if there's a great comment that someone told me when I first started that the best time to ask, they were just talking about testimonials, but the best time to ask for a testimonial is when your client is happiest. So it may not be at the end of the project. Exactly. But it might be once you delivered, the first round or something and they're like, oh my God, this is, hitting all the right notes. It's amazing. I wonder if then would be a good time to start a conversation around, I'm so glad that this is all feeling great and like it's fitting into place. For a small business like me, really testimonials and referrals, they're my bread and butter. I'm wondering if it's possible to flag now that it would mean so much to me if there would be a way to get some of this feedback in a form that I could actually use to promote my services. So I understand that, of course, there are different protocols and it's probably very effortful, but I also think that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask. Whether it's possible and how that could look.
Amazing.
So one thing we do like to do with the podcast each week is we like to ask our guests about their favorite digital tools. What are yours? I think clearly Instagram, which is not a bad thing. It's about thinking differently. Yeah, but what else?
So I would rave until the cows come home about Thrivecart as a checkout platform. So if anyone is selling,
I don't know.
My God.
We've talked about that, I think. Everyone seems to love it, actually. Lots of course people love it. Brooke McCarthy is really into Thrivecart, and
what is it?
Susan Rioch as well.
So it's a checkout platform. So possibly less relevant for those who are selling, big one-to-one projects and therefore don't have that many transactions per year. But if you sell group programs or digital products, it just makes getting people's money so easy. So
like that.
Yes. So it syncs up really seamlessly with like Stripe, PayPal, Apple Pay, all those things. But what I love about it is that it has a really great easy to use design capabilities. So like I'm shocking. I have Squarespace for my website, but even that sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I'm really doing. Like, how do I make this look good? You know, how do I set up functions like upsells or bumps or downsells? Thrivecart actually has all that built in for you. So it's just a case of you selecting whether or not you want to do that for that specific offer. You can also do all sorts of other things that just like you can do joint venture offers. So if you want to partner with someone, for example, if you want to, you know, if you, Lynn, and you, Rach, wanted to partner together and offer some sort of paid group program and you wanted to split the profits 50-50 or 40-60, you could use Thrivecart to do that for you. So it wasn't an admin piece that you had to tackle later down the track.
Wow.
So things like that, I just think it saves so much time for all of those reasons. And it's also, the other good thing about it is it's a one-time payment. So I think it's like $500 or something around there, but then you don't have to pay anything else and you have it for life. So
wow, okay.
Compared to the subscription options, I think it's I just love it.
Amazing. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes because I think that there are a lot of people out there listening who would, you know, be selling courses and products and things like that who might be interested in it.
Especially anyone who did our side hustle.
That's
Listen to our
right.
side hustle podcast.
Yes. And I imagine it's a you know, competitor to WooCommerce, which is what I use in WordPress. So
yes,
which is okay. But yeah, I'm always looking for better options.
Yes, always a sign that like the software is good enough but not great when you're like it's like have a look at Thrivecart. It's amazing.
Okay, yeah, I will.
So what would you be your advice for anyone who hates gathering social proof? How do you
even
start?
after listening to you?
Where would you start? What's the thing when they stop listening to this podcast? What's the first thing they should do?
So I'm going to give 2 suggestions. Next time you get an email from a client or you see a conversation in your group space or you get a lovely DM or something from someone, make the ask.
Yeah.
Say, thank you so much for sharing this. I'm so happy that X has happened for you. How would you feel if I took a screenshot of this with or without your name visible and used it to help me market my offer, program, services down the track? Such a simple thing. And I think you'll be surprised how easy it is for most people to say yes to that. The other thing I would suggest is setting up a survey. It can be really simple, but really thinking through what kinds of questions you should be asking the people who engage with your services or your offers so that you are collecting what's going to be really valuable proof to help you sell things more easily. And there is a workshop on my website about that at the moment too. If anyone listening is like, well, I want some concrete examples, I'm sure we can put the link up in the show notes.
It's amazing. I've done it. Yes. Go and do the workshop. Okay. Last question. Tell us where people can find you and if there's anything else about social proof that you're itching to tell us that we haven't asked you about.
Oh, okay. I'll answer the easy question first. So people can find me at kirstyfanton.com or on Instagram at kirsty.fanton. And I feel like you've asked really great questions about social proof. And I don't know. I can't think of anything else that
We've covered it all, hopefully.
I think so. Yeah. You guys nailed it.
That is very flattering considering we're talking to an ex-psychotherapist who actually did training on the best questions to ask. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Wow. This has been fascinating, Kirsty. I really enjoyed it and I've made me think a lot and that's great, which is what we want to do. Thanks so much for being our guest. And that brings us to the end of the show this week. But thanks to everyone who's listening and sharing us on social media, you know, giving us social proof, I guess. So if you like the show, don't forget to leave a rating and review on the podcast platform that you use.
Yes.
And Lynn and Rachel will screenshot that and no.
We absolutely will. We're going to be starting our filing system on social proof just so everybody out there knows. But thank you again. Thank you so much, Kirsty. And don't forget, you can find the show notes in your podcast app. So head there to find out about what we've mentioned in the show and also to find out where you can connect with Kirsty. And thank you again to our sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. You can find them at rounded.com.au.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.